It is 10 a.m. Time to get started. First off, thank you everybody for being here, for registering, for being a part of this. We are happy to present this for you as a company that cares deeply about the health and safety of our global community and being able to provide such topics for you based on your needs as a community and the topics that are deeply important to both of us in terms of keeping each other safe in the workplace. What we are going to cover is a masterclass on ANSI ISEA Z358.1 2014 R2020 and cover shower and eye wash compliance. Thank you very much for being here. Now, to get started, just a quick note post any and all questions you have. There is again, I kind of mentioned it just before we started, but there's a questions button up there in the top right hand corner. It looks like a little box with a question mark in it. If you have questions about anything I'm about to cover as they come up, or if you think of one down the road and want to throw it in that box, please do so. There won't be enough time to answer all the questions that are submitted, but I will personally take those questions, put a document together, and answer them after the webinar, and put that Excel file together and send it out to you so that you have the answers to your question, but also everybody else's questions, because they very well may have come up with something that you didn't consider. And that's one of the beautiful things about this. So we're going to take all of that information and share it, and so you can expect a follow-up from us in that regard. Now, there will be a section immediately after kind of a soft close on the webinar. We'll give you some information on how to contact us and visit the website and things like that, and then we'll dig into the actual Q&A. We'll dig into the questions. I'll give answers to a lot of the pre-submitted questions that we had for the webinar, and any others that were submitted. I'll get to as many as I can. But that will be right after kind of a soft close. Feel free to stick around. It's very likely we'll go over the hour with the question and answers section, and I'll try to get as many as I can before we have to bring this to a close. Okay. Now, look for a follow-up email from us in about 24 to 48 hours. Okay, that follow-up email will include a recording of the webinar, so you can have that on demand, in hand, so that you can rewatch the presentation, share it if you'd like, etc. It'll be about 24 to 48 hours after the presentation. We will be launching poll questions as we progress through the presentation. Your participation is greatly appreciated on those. That helps us to improve our product, to ensure that we are meeting the needs of our customers, and that we're doing a good job over here. And I'm not opposed to pats on the back, so those are always fun. So surveys, the follow-up survey will also be sent after the webinar. And we'll even bribe you with a $5 Starbucks gift card. So coffee on us for your participation. And we'll be sure to send that off. So watch out for that post webinar. Now, to really dig into it and get started with introductions, I'm Justin Dunn. I am the Field Marketing Manager over here at Haws. Coming in close on my 10-year anniversary hanging out here at Haws. And it's the best. Love this place. So for 10 years, I've been educating on and studying the ANSI standards, emergency equipment, emergency first aid, and then on the other half of that coin with what we do here at Haws, bottle fillers, drinking fountains, ADA accessibility, and etc. I try to be a resource for our customers and our employees on those topics. So if you have questions, be sure to submit them. Now, with me, kind of managing the back of end of the webinar, is my friend Allie McCombs. If you would say hello really quickly.
Hi everyone, I'm Allie McCombs. I'm the marketing coordinator here at Haws. I have been here for a little over 2 years. Like Justin mentioned, I'm going to run the back end of this webinar as well as the poll questions.
Allie's going to make sure that I don't mess up. So moving on, we are going to get into our agenda. So what is the ANSI ISEA Z358.1-2014 R2020, that stands for Revision 2020 standard? The significant requirements of the standard, and I'm going to walk you through very quickly, not in depth, on a lot of these, because it really is quite simple how to test for some of these things. So I'm going to walk you through how to test for each of these, and you may be surprised just how easy it is. We'll go over best practices for emergency equipment. We'll cover resources for achieving compliance, and then we'll have that soft close of the webinar, and I'll dive into the submitted questions, the pre-submitted questions, and I'll give answers to those as quickly as I can. I'll get through as many as I can. And that brings us to, what is the ANSI ISEA Z358.1-2014 R2020 standard? And we'll dig right into the details, but we're going to start with poll question number 1. Allie, if you would, please.
All right, getting into our first poll question. Which best describes your role in choosing showers and eye face washes? I will give you all a little bit of time to vote. We appreciate your participation in these polls. We encourage participation. So thank you all for submitting your votes. I'll give you all a few more seconds. And I'm going to go ahead and close this poll. Thank you, everyone.
There's a good mix there. A lot of decision makers in there. So let's move on to what's driving the ISEA ANSI standard, Z358.1, right? So everybody in here probably knows who OSHA is. Okay, that's the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. They're the agency responsible for regulating emergency shower and eye wash facilities. Okay, every country has an OSHA. Oh, almost every country has an OSHA, and it's some combination of O, S, H, and A, or C, or whatever. And our OSHA, though, is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. For instance, in Canada, they have their own version. But most of the world is referencing and adhering to the Z358.1 standard. Okay. The other kind of version, the other half of the world references the European standard, which is another document that is really well written, really well done. But it and the Z358.1 standard are incredibly similar. Very, very, very similar. Now, what's driving this, though, and what we're really trying to meet compliance on, is OSHA standard. That's 29 CFR 1910.151C under medical services and first aid. The unfortunate part, but the reason why we need Z358.1 is because this is all the information we get here. We get a paragraph, and it tells us where the eyes or body of any person may be exposed to injurious corrosive materials. Suitable facilities for quick drenching or flushing of the eyes and body shall be provided within the work area for immediate emergency use. This is great. This tells us I need emergency equipment. I've got nasty stuff in my facility, and I've got to protect my people. It doesn't tell me how to do it. It doesn't tell me where the equipment goes, how it's supposed to function, or provide me with any of that information. And that is why the Z358.1 standard is referenced as the primary source for compliance. Okay, and what the Z358.1 standard does is it prevents injuries and fatalities, lowers general workplace risk, lowers the possibility of lost time and money, both for the employee and for the employer. Right? There's very likely going to be, if you were working and you were dealing with something really nasty, and you had a PPE failure, or perhaps you didn't have the right protective equipment in place, and you were exposed to something. You ran to a combination unit to try to flush your body from these contaminants, and it didn't work. It did not function correctly. There's very likely going to be litigation. There's going to be health costs, hospital bills and things like that. There's going to be a lot of money, for both parties that are going to have to be spent afterwards. And this helps to prevent all of that, right? If we have proper working equipment, we can do a lot of things. We can lower the victims, the amount of time they have to spend in the hospital, the likelihood that they're going to survive, the likelihood that they can keep their eyesight, and so on. Okay. OSHA has also stepped up their enforcement, in particular for employers who have a history of serious or repeated violations, two of the most serious violations there are. On August 1st, 2016, OSHA fines increased for the first time since 1990 by 80%, which was a bit of a shock, but they were not properly adjusting for inflation. So it was just a huge deal. And they're now adjusting year over year to account for inflation. But I wanted to give you some examples of fines across the U.S., what that kind of looks like, and they can be small, a couple $1,000, or up to nearly $500,000, depending on the severity, depending on whether OSHA wagged their finger at you and you did what they told you to do or you ignored them. That's a big no-no. So if it's a repeated violation, something you've been told not to do, you did it anyways, there's a good chance you're going to get a much bigger fine, or if it's a serious violation. But as you can see, wide array of penalties here, ranging from small to big. Some of these, for instance, Bay Area Athletic Clubs, gym employees working with extreme pH chemicals not provided with an eye wash or shower station. That was the violation. That was back in 2017, Coos Bay, Oregon, and it was nearly $200,000, which for some businesses is a huge chunk of change. Not easy to swallow, and all we needed to do is put some emergency equipment in place. Spend a couple $1,000s, get the right equipment in place, protect your employees, and we're good to go. So lots of examples here, but this is all public information. You can dig this out on OSHA, on the internet, and find these types of instances. That will bring us to poll question number 2. Allie?
All right, our next poll question is, what do you think the average OSHA fine is? This is going to be an interactive poll question, so I will share the results after we vote. So again, your participation is greatly appreciated with these. I will give you a couple more seconds to submit your votes. And again, thank you for your participation. I'm going to end the poll and share results. Alrighty, it looks like the majority of you said the average OSHA fine is $11,000 to $25,000, and the second one was the $1,000 to $10,000. So thank you everyone for participating in this second poll question.
Pretty spot on there. About 70% of you are participating there. Thank you very much. So yeah, slightly less likely that you're getting the big ticket item. The problem is when you have multiple fines that end up adding up, because you'll end up getting fined per incident, and that can be quite costly. Now, the standard itself was written by the International Safety Equipment Association. That's the ISEA in the name. Okay, and they are the writers of the actual standard. ANSI is the vehicle for distribution. Okay, and then OSHA again references the ANSI standard during site inspections and violation reporting, and is recognized worldwide. Honestly, as the recognized source for guidance to comply with either OSHA 1910.151C or the country's respective version of that standard, which just about everybody has. Now, there's the standard itself was first published in 1981. It's had many revisions since. We're on 2014 right now, revision 2020. And we've had some important revisions quite recently. In 2009, it included a temperature range for water delivery, which was overdue. Simultaneous use requirements, eyewash testing requirements, still an issue with people to understanding what's required and actually performing the tests. In 2014 was a lot of changes that were geared towards manufacturers, standardization, installation of emergency equipment, location and adjusted measurements, and so on. So a lot of good stuff in the 2014 edit as well. Now to get into the significant requirements, what's actually required from you and how to test for those. Okay, and that starts with testing. Okay, weekly testing and annual testing. Okay, on a weekly basis, not a monthly basis, a weekly basis. Okay, which it can be overwhelming for some facilities. I know it's difficult, but these tests can take a couple seconds. It really depends on the type of emergency equipment you have in place, but all that's required is that you visit the unit once a week. I suggest early in the morning, whenever somebody immediately gets there, but probably Monday morning, if that's when your work week starts, just to ensure that the equipment is already checked for the week. We know it's functioning. Activate the heads of the device. If there's a shower present, it has to be activated. If there's an eye wash or eye face wash, that has to be activated. And just run it long enough so that you're clearing out the dead leg. We don't want stagnant, bacteria-rich, gross water stuck in those lines. That's all we're doing. We're flushing out the gunk. Okay? So clear out the dead legs, flush it, and that changes depending on the type of equipment, right? But if there's a shower attached, you're getting a lot of water out of that unit very quickly, upwards of 20 gallons per minute. So that can flush the line out pretty quickly if you have long dead legs. Okay. Now for portables, self-contained, either gravity-fed or pressurized units, all that's required is a visual inspection. Okay. You got to go to the unit. You have to make sure that it is either it's filled with the correct amount of water without, you don't have to actually activate it. You just have to make sure it's filled to the fill line per the manufacturer, right? Because that's how you're going to get your full 15 minutes. Or if it's pressurized, check the pressurization gauge on the front, make sure the PSI is correct. Maybe give it a little tip just to make sure there's actually water in there. And that's it. It's a visual inspection. Sign the tag, or if you're documenting it electronically, like here in the photo, then do that, and you're all set for the week. Okay. Now, I know what you're going to ask yourself, but Justin, what happens if I don't test? And this is exactly what's going to happen. You're going to get some interesting flavors coming out of your eye wash, your eye face wash, safety showers, etc. And this is not something you want going into your eyes or onto your already damaged, burned skin. Okay, we want clean, potable water. The flushing fluid for emergency equipment is defined as clean, potable water. It right there in the standard under definitions. Okay, and this is what we want to avoid. Okay, it's the chocolate wedding fountain. I'm pretty sure that's concentrated evil up there in the top left, or they struck oil. I'm not sure which. That Guardian's pumping out Gatorade. You got coffee in the bottom right. We want to avoid this. This is nasty. This is potential Legionella. This is an exciting new lung disease you're going to take home that you don't want. So please clear out those dead legs, test on a weekly basis, and ensure we have clean flushing fluid. Now on an annual basis, you have to do a head-to-toe evaluation of the emergency equipment once a year. That's it. We have to test it. We have to measure it. And I'm going to walk you through everything that's required right after a quick poll question. But this sheet here that you see on the right, this is available from us. This is available from most manufacturers, to be honest with you. We think we did a really good job on our checklist, and this is free. This is available to you. We'll share one of these with you, but it covers what's required, and it gives you all the information on the sheet. We even have a waterproof version that you can get from us. Catch us at a trade show or something like that. Happy to slap one in your hands, but they're very cool. But they walk you through everything. You have to follow this checklist. Make sure you're marking it from beginning to end. Everything's checked and correcting any compliance issues or errors. That brings us to poll question number 3.
Alrighty, poll question number 3. What are you likely to do after today's webinar? Check all that apply. Do not answer if the question does not apply. I'll give you all some time to submit your answers. Again, thank you all for participating in these poll questions. It is greatly appreciated. I will give you all a few more seconds to submit those answers, and we are going to go ahead and end this poll. Thank you, everyone.
Educate others is my favorite answer. I love that. I love seeing how many of you picked that. I love that you're going to spread the word further because it's really important. Okay, now what you're going to need for the testing includes some sort of test kit. Ours is there on the right-hand side. It's a 9011-9011 test kit. And what you're going to need that's included in there is a tape measure. You're going to need an eye wash gauge. This is designed by the ANSI standard. There's a drawing in there that told us exactly how to make that thing. And it's based on average human anthropometrics. And I'll show you how to use it here in a little bit. A 5-gallon bucket with the 2-gallon water line marked, preferably white or see-through so that you can see how much water is in there. A shower sock or pole, because they call it a drenched shower for a reason, and you're going to not want to get your loafers wet. Thermometer, and you're going to need an ANSI Z358.1 checklist like the one that I just showed off to you. Now, to begin, the equipment must be accessible within 10 seconds or 55 feet. That is the rule number 1, okay? Check for the emergency equipment proximity to the hazard, okay? 10 seconds is based on how quickly corrosives and other extreme irritants and things like that are going to diminish and harm your eyesight or your skin. Okay, within 10 seconds, if you are able to get to the emergency equipment that quickly, there's a very high likelihood that you're going to be able to, much higher likelihood that you're going to save your eyes, you're going to save your skin, you're going to diminish the amount of days you need in the hospital, diminish the need for skin grafts, and so many other things. Okay, now 55 feet is a nice, hard, measurable distance because 10 seconds is difficult to gauge for us. We're all built differently. 55 feet is a nice measurable distance and is, of course, the maximum distance. Okay, so we can put that emergency equipment as close as we want, as long as it is safe to do so. Okay, if you have a hazard that's going to continuously be spraying and contaminating an entire area where you might have a containment berm or something like that that has to trap that chemical, you can't just be hanging out in there using an emergency piece of equipment. So ensure it's somewhere safe, but it is as close as possible. Okay. Second, in conjunction with the first, it has to be free of obstructions on your way from hazard to unit. Okay. We cannot create an obstacle course on the way to the emergency equipment. Okay. I think those are rat traps on the top left in the photos. Nobody wants to dig into the top right one, especially if you don't have very good use of your eyesight. And, on the bottom photo, you're just leaping over what already looks like corrosive chemicals to get to an eye wash where there probably should be a shower, to be honest with you. But we do not want obstructions. This can look like tool carts, it can look like garbage cans, a forklift, etc. You have to keep the path clear and the area in front of the emergency equipment clear of obstruction. Okay. Now, the equipment also must be located on the same level as the hazard. We cannot have stairs, changes in level. Again, I mentioned containment berms like you see here. We can't have that, the steps, or have you, hurtling over stuff on your way to the emergency equipment. It has to be on the same level, easy to get to. Try to prevent, again, an obstacle course on the way. The unit itself has to be well lit, and it has to be easily identifiable with highly visible signage. For instance, as you see here on the right, make sure you're checking the area for adequate lighting, that you can easily see the signage from a distance. Otherwise, this type of equipment really, there's lots of colors out there, I think yellow's a difficult one um, to see in these types of areas, which is why I threw a couple examples over there. Um, make it as highly visible as possible. That's why we stick with green at Haws. Green is the color of safety. It's the color of first aid. We want you to see green and think green. But we add an alternating pattern on our supply line too. So it's a green, yellow, and it's as easily identifiable as possible. Your signage could be huge. It doesn't have to be the signage included. Manufacturers like us add a much bigger signage too if you want to supplement with large signage, but be cautious that this doesn't blend too much into the environment. It's easy to find. Also must deliver flushing fluid for a full 15 minutes. That is a difficult bit to test for. Okay, 15 minutes at the bare minimum. You need 23 gallons per minute for an eye face wash and shower combo, and over the course of 15 minutes, I mean, you're going to be, spilling 340 plus gallons of water onto the floor. And that is not possible in many scenarios. So test the supply line, test your equipment that will be providing the water to the unit, and ensure that it is fully capable of running for a full 15 minutes at the required GPM. Haws, we have, I mean, you know, just north of the bare minimum amount of water. We just try to use it as intelligently as possible. You're going to find emergency equipment that uses 30, that uses 40 gallons per minute. Okay. So ensure that you understand what the requirement is of the equipment and ensure that your supply is adequate to pump out that much water, because very frequently you'll get starvation and you'll get issues. Okay. So watch out for that. Now, outlets have to be protected from airborne contaminants. This just means you have to have the dust covers in place. That's all. Very simple. Check for dust covers. Make sure they're being replaced. The dust covers themselves also have to be self-removing. Okay. I suggest during your weekly activation or during the annual activation, activate the equipment. Ensure that dust cap is coming off all by itself. You cannot have a separate motion required to remove the dust cover. Okay. It has to be automatic. Now the equipment has to go from off to on in 1 second or less. Okay, it is not one motion. Okay, 1 second or less. And it has to remain on without the use of the operator's hands. Okay, I can rub my belly and I can pat my head at the same time. And if I was on camera, I'd prove it. I'd totally prove it. But I can't hold a shower on and an eye face wash on and remove clothing and spread my eyelids open and do all that at the same time. The equipment has to remain on without the use of the operator's hands indefinitely until the user switches the equipment off manually. Okay, so no self-closing valves on there. And then remember, 1 second or less, not one motion. And that's per piece of equipment. So the shower and the eye face wash, those are considered separate activations, right? Because you may be using just the eye face wash. That has to be 1 second or less, and then the shower 1 second or less. Now, this is what you're watching out for, but not just the example that I give you, which is self-closing valves, but those, watch for the springs, watch for the chain, the pull system. Those have to be replaced. You want a standard ball valve without that spring that'll stay open indefinitely. Okay. The other issue with this and what's required is what you see there on the right. Okay. Not only is that eye wash mounted on the wall, like really tall, like way too tall, but there's two other things working against it. One, it's a self-closing valve, meaning that you're going to have to grab it and hold that valve open while you use it. Okay. That is not how it's intended to be used. That's how maybe a drench hose would work. This is an eye wash. Okay. We want a stay open valve no matter what. Okay. Now, the other issue is that it the way it's mounted. You have to be careful, whether it's on the back of a counter, with the direction of the eyes or the eye face wash is facing, that has to be oriented towards the victim. We can't have it facing towards the wall like this. I can't activate it, let it go, dig my fingers into my eyelids and spread them open and use this. It's going to be impossible. So watch out for those types of units as well. Now, each type of equipment has a minimum flow rate. For an eye wash, you have to have a minimum of 0.4 gallons per minute coming out of it. An eye face wash is 3 gallons per minute, and a drench shower is 20 gallons per minute. That is the minimum amount of water, which means it can be much more than that, but you have to be careful. Again, some places, you're dealing with nasty corrosives and so on that are going to leave you in even in just 10 seconds, leave you in bad shape by the time you get to that emergency equipment. And victim comfort should be uh, one of the considerations. Okay, if you're dumping 40 gallons per minute on top of somebody that's already their skin is in bad shape, that's not going to. There's no way they're going to be able to stay in there, even if it's just out of desperation. Okay, try to focus on equipment that is focused on victim comfort, that has an even distribution of water, and is non-injurious. Okay, which brings us to the next requirement. Okay, the equipment itself has to provide a controlled flow of flushing fluid. Okay, and it has to be at a velocity that is low enough to be non-injurious to the user. That goes for the shower, and very importantly for the eye wash or eye face wash. Okay, you're going to end up getting I call them ceiling tile washers or skull washers, brain washers, but you'll get a very intense flow of water coming up from the device. And that has to be maintained and dialed back using flow controls or, just intelligent engineering like you see here in the video to keep that from injuring the victim. Okay. Now, just to give you some examples. Okay. Minimum flow rates, remember eye wash, 0.4 GPM, eye face wash, 3 GPM. And that's what too much and too little looks like. Okay. If it's too much water plumbed and we're not using flow controls, we can really get into trouble here. That's injurious flow there on the left. Okay. There's no chance you're going to be able to, I don't care how tough you are. There's no chance you can put your face in. That is going to, it's going to be a bad day. Okay. And on the right, that's not enough water, right? We didn't uh, accurately judge the GPM requirement. Maybe the supply line is too small. Maybe you have obstructions, you have buildup in the heads, whatever it happens to be. Um, you're going to have a choose your favorite eye situation here, and that's what we want to avoid. Okay, especially with that old bullhorn type stuff. Uh, you have the splitting of the water path, and you have the potential to run into problems. So watch out for that simultaneous operation between the heads and the issues that arise from those when you're not providing enough water or you have contaminants that are blocking the flow. Now, the way that we measure this, the tool we have to use to ensure that the equipment is providing water that is going to hit both eyes and is going to be useful to the user, okay, is the eye wash gauge. Okay, again, that's the drawing they gave us in the standard. That's our product down there in the bottom left. That's the 9015. It is a see-through gauge with eye circles based on average human anthropometrics. Okay, meaning our eyes are pretty much all in the same spot, distance-wise, etc. And as long as the water from the eye wash or eye face wash is hitting that gauge, both streams directly into the eye circles, then we can ensure that the device has a usable and functioning amount of water coming out of it that is going to be useful. Okay, let me give you an overhead view here too so you can see what's happening. But the way we use the gauge is we measure 8 inches above the heads of the device, place the gauge there, and then slowly lower that gauge. As long as the gauge aligns with the eye wash streams, so that, and I'll show you here, so that the eye circles align with the eye wash sprays, then we know it is usable, that is going to hit you directly in the eyes. We're getting enough water out of there, and so on. Okay, this doesn't provide uneven flow rate that is going to miss one eye or make you choose again which eye is your favorite. This is hitting you directly in the face and in both eyes. Okay. Now that gauge can align at 8 inches or all the way down to, just above the heads of the device. There's lots of different types of equipment out there, stuff that's designed much different than what you see here in the photo or in the video. So anywhere between 0 and 8 inches, as long as that gauge aligns, it is considered compliant. Now the flow pattern itself, the water coming from the head, has to be between 33 to 53 inches from the floor. That's the top of the flow pattern. Okay, that's ensuring that the top of the flow pattern isn't too high, that the isn't so high that the shorter amongst us can't reach the water to place their face into it and utilize it. Okay, or it's not so low that it's incredibly difficult to use. Okay, I run into emergency equipment all the time because we do surveys on site, and you get every brand out there, um, whether it's a standard brand or you ordered it on Wish, that spray well above 53 inches, and it'd be very difficult for somebody to use. I think maybe once or twice I've run into an eye wash that was installed so weird that the spray pattern was under 33 inches from the floor. That is so short, but it can happen. So anywhere between that range, totally fine. The eye wash heads also have to be free of obstruction by 6 inches, and that's around each head. And that's just to assure there's no obstructions. Nothing's going to obstruct the flow pattern. Now for the shower test, you're going to need that 5-gallon bucket with the 2-gallon water line marked. We're going to need the shower sock and pole, and we're going to need the thermometer. Throw the thermometer in the bottom of the bucket. Place the shower sock firmly around the shower head and run the bottom into the bucket. Okay. Activate the activate the eye wash first, or the eye face wash if one is present. We want to make sure that's running if there's one installed, because it's designed to work together. Okay. And we want to ensure there's no starvation at the eye wash or the eye face wash when the shower turns on. I'll explain that here in a little bit. Then activate the shower for 6 seconds and then promptly turn it off. Okay, check that the 2-gallon water level mark on the bucket is met. We're doing the exact same thing that a nurse would do at the hospital. Okay, they are going to, count your pulse for 10 seconds or maybe less and just do the math in their head. They're not going to count for 60 seconds and be like, oh, well, this is your BPM. We're doing the same thing. So 2 gallons, 6 seconds times 10, we have 20 gallons at 60 seconds. Okay, that's what we're measuring. That brings us to poll question number 4.
Alrighty. Poll question number 4. Is your facility experiencing a shortage in maintenance staff? Please go ahead and pick either yes or not at this time. Again, we greatly appreciate your participation. This greatly helps us to help you. So thank you for your
Awesome.
involvement. I'll give you all a few more seconds to submit your votes. It looks like we've got everyone in. So thank you.
The no's win, but barely. I mean, gosh, it's upsetting. You guys are on mute, not me. I love all the emojis though. I was like, whoa, that's a lot of emojis. Thank you to whoever put in the like 50 thumbs up. Or that was just all of you. That was great. All right. 20 inches wide, 60 inches above the floor. Average human anthropometrics. Also, the laughing emojis. Those kind of got me rolling there for a minute. Now, 60 inches wide, 20 inches. That's average human shoulder spacing. Okay. That's just ensuring that that flow pattern when running is going to completely cover our body. That's it. Okay. Now there's an issue here. An effect here that I would like you to watch out. This isn't included in the ANSI standard. It is constantly something that I harp on. That is an important consideration, and I personally call it the donut effect. Okay. As you see here in the photo, that flow pattern is utilizing the shower bell. Okay. That's not something we do. There are other manufacturers that don't do it. We use a nozzle to evenly distribute the water across the victim. This, while it looks like full body coverage, is creating a circle, a cone around the user. Please consider this as you're testing this emergency equipment, okay? Because all you're doing is rinsing the area, rinsing the floor around the user. You're not actually rinsing the victim. Okay, so please consider that as you're kind of testing your emergency equipment. Now that flow pattern from the very center of the flow pattern also has to be free of obstruction, and that's by 16 inches from the center of the column. Okay, 16-inch radius, completely free of obstruction. We can't have anything running through that area. Now the shower head, so this is how you would do it. Measure 60 inches up, 20 inches wide. You just use a tape measure. It's very simple. And just ensure that you're getting, again, shoulder to shoulder spray. The other thing you need to consider is that the shower head has to be 82 to 96 inches above the surface floor of the user. Okay. Now, if it is under 82 inches, the flow pattern is going to be too narrow. It's not going to completely cover our body, and maybe a more intense spray on the user itself. If it is above 96 inches, this I see very frequently in hospitals as they install their shower heads directly into the ceiling tiles, and sometimes those are much too tall. So 82 to 96 inches, that's kind of the golden area in there. We're getting even distribution. We're getting that 20 inches wide at 60 inches. Okay, just use your tape measure. Measure to the outlet of the water, not the bell, wherever the water is actually coming out of. Okay, and then measure the pull rod. Make sure the maximum height of the pull rod, the bottom of the pull rod, does not exceed 69 inches from the surface floor of the user. That's it. We're making sure that the shorter amongst us can reach up and grab that pull rod and activate it. And it's reasonable to think that it doesn't matter for the taller amongst us. They can just grab the pull rod at whatever point and pull it down. So we need to make sure it's at a height that all of us can reach it and activate it. There are, of course, pull rods that are extended greatly, much closer to the ground for ADA, ensuring it's within reach ranges and that we can activate it from a wheelchair if necessary. Now the combination unit components have to be capable of operating simultaneously and have to be positioned so that the components may be simultaneously used by the same user. Just like you see here in the photo, the shower has to be aligned with the eye wash or eye face wash for simultaneous use. And then watch out. There's a very, very sneaky issue here, and it's called simultaneous operation. That's how we refer to it. The shower head uses the most water on this piece of equipment, and water very frequently takes the path of least resistance through the equipment. Okay. Now, as it's doing that, very frequently, if flow controls are not being used in the emergency equipment as they should be, the shower will starve the eye wash or eye face wash, and you will get a shower that is running with zero eye wash or eye face wash water coming out because the shower's it's hogging it all. It's starving the other half of the unit. So as long as you have flow controls in place, or you can retrofit flow controls in place, for instance, then you should be good. It'll create that back pressure and you'll get simultaneous operation. But watch out for those during your testing. Okay. Now, shutoff valves. We can't just have those unlocked, easily accessible next to the emergency equipment. Okay, you have to have and have to ensure that the valve feeding the unit is locked in the open position. Okay, I suggest using lotto devices because then there's a procedure in place that forces you to put that device back in place and lock it open. Okay, and then you can remove it for maintenance purposes and things like that. Um, this is just ensuring that just anybody walking by can't turn it off. Okay. Again, we do surveys. I cannot tell you how many times I've gone to activate an eye face wash or a shower and there was zero water coming out. And then we had to trace the line back and found out somebody just left the valve off. Okay. Watch out for those. Make sure they're locked open. I call this the duh clause. I mean, this should be just a no brainer. If you have employees who may be exposed to hazardous materials, please be ensured that they are instructed on where the emergency equipment is at and how to use that emergency equipment. Make them go activate it. Make them familiar with that type of equipment. Because if you're panicking, and I guarantee I've personally, I think if I had, I like to think of myself as pretty tough, but if I had corrosive materials in my eyes, on my face, I'm going to freak out. Okay, I'm going to be panicking. I'm going to be moving as quick as I can to that emergency equipment. And if I'm familiar with it, if I already know ahead of time, I know where the push, I know it's a push paddle, and I know it's a pull rod. Um, then I can activate it very quickly and very likely save my eyesight, my skin, etc. So quiz your employees, make sure they know how to activate it because not all emergency equipment is made the same. There are some very interesting takes on activation for emergency equipment out there. Where the possibility of freezing conditions exist, make sure you have freeze protected equipment. It's as easy as that. I'm going to cover temperatures here in just a second, but you'll see equipment like you see here on the right. Jacketed, heat traced stuff that is good down to negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit, about or in that area, and is great for protecting from freezing. Okay, I have a nice collection of photos of popsicles that were formerly emergency equipment in cold regions. So watch out. Make sure you're testing at the worst time of year, the most likely time you're going to see freezing temperatures, and ensure that you have the right equipment in place. Now, the temperature of the flushing fluid has to be between 60 degrees Fahrenheit to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 16 degrees Celsius to 38 degrees Celsius for my friends up north. Those are some of the tools that you can use there on the right to accomplish that. You want to look for, I mean, if you already have hot water, use a mixing valve. If you have a good amount of electricity on site, use instantaneous heaters, or steam, use a steam heater that's instantaneous for the emergency equipment. There's lots of ways to do this. Um, and this temperature range is incredibly important. And that's why we threw the thermometer in the bottom of the bucket earlier during our shower test. We're trying to test the temperature of the water. Now, if the water's too cold, you risk hypothermia, obviously, cold shock, possible cardiac arrest. And worst case scenario, the insulation on your body is corroding. Okay, you are going to bleed heat from your body very, very quickly. Okay, and ensuring that the water temperature is decent. It's not going to be a nice warm house shower, in the morning, but around 80 to 85 degrees will keep you from becoming hypothermic too quick, and help to prevent things like cold shock and cardiac arrest. Okay, you also have to remove your clothing. Okay, contaminants, especially corrosive or oily corrosives and so on, irritants can get trapped beneath your clothes, and you have to remove your clothing when you're in that emergency shower. Okay. Now, if it's too hot, we have similar issues, right? Hyperthermia. We're going to heat up too quick, causing heat stroke, confusion. The scalding of our eyes and the soft tissue on our face, actually, it starts at 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, we can tolerate it, but you start to actually damage the soft tissue of your eyes with continued exposure to 100 degrees Fahrenheit water. and so you're going to start to, it only gets worse as the temperature goes up from there, right? And skin burns start at 120 degrees Fahrenheit. The hottest water I ever had come out of a piece of emergency equipment, I think, was 138 degrees Fahrenheit out of a shower. And it burned me through the shower sock. It was awful. I couldn't even imagine somebody in a bad situation activating that and standing under it. It would be just horrific. Now, the other reason we want to keep that water temperature down is the negative reaction with chemicals. Okay, depending on the chemical, you may have a negative reaction with warmer water, and 80 to 85 degrees water. That's what we preset all of our stuff to. Mixing valves are instantaneous, etc. Is 85 degrees. Is because that is a temperature that will. I mean, again, it's not going to be nice and toasty like your warm house shower, but it is going to prevent negative reaction with chemicals and keep you warm enough that you are not going to have the negative effects of too hot or too cold. Oh, this slide. Oh my gosh. Supplemental equipment is great. Or it can be if you're using it right. Okay. These are all very real photos. Some of these are mine. Some of these are from a magical place called OSHA Reddit, and I highly suggest a visit. Supplemental equipment is excellent when it is well maintained and taken care of. Okay. I see one in place here that's not frozen or missing, and that's that Honeywell unit there, kind of in the middle. As long as you are checking the expiration date, you're ensuring the unit is there, it's full on a weekly basis. These also require a weekly test, and that is just visual, ensure that they're there, they're full, they haven't been used, etc. Then these are great. These are supplemental in that if I was at the hazard and I was exposed, I could quickly use this bottle, flush my eyes out, and then on my way to primary plumbed 15-minute capable emergency equipment nearby. That's what you want. Okay, that's a great way to use this stuff. Unfortunately, many facilities have nothing but this supplemental bottle systems, and that is not okay because you're not getting 15 minutes of water out of here. And the bare minimum flushing time for most hazards is 15 minutes. It's very unlikely you're going to find a time under that, and it goes. I think the longest I've ever seen is 45 minutes required because it's a very oily, corrosive. So watch out for those, and always reference the SDS sheets, anyways, for the amount of time. But these are great. Just make sure they are actually present. Otherwise, you're gonna end up running over there, and you'll find the burn it out option, like you see there on the left, or if it's frozen. It's not that the big gulps are a wrong answer technically if they were full, but and not the worst, completely honest with you. But they're empty, and you probably want something sealed would be ideal. Now, a couple considerations. Now, I told you earlier that you cannot have a change in level, and that's true, except for this type of equipment. Okay, you see two of our units here on the right, 8605 SS, 8606 SS. These have to have a step. Okay, and there's an exception in the standard that allows for a single step as long as it is into an enclosed piece of emergency equipment. Okay, that's allowed because we can't manufacture this stuff to be flush with the ground. It's not possible. It's intended to capture the water, which is all but necessary in many situations. It's certainly depending on what the hazard is. If it's a certain type of chemical, forever chemicals, all types of stuff that have to be captured and cannot hit local waterways. Or you just don't want the hazardous water and runoff going all over your facility. This is what you want in place. So one step, as long as it's into an enclosure. Also in the appendix and included, this is section B5, a door. It gives us the rules for allowing a door. Okay, you can have a door, but it has to meet this criteria. Okay, the door has to be non-locking, right? You'd hate to be in an emergency and run and find a locked door and have to find a way around. That would just extend that 10 seconds way past when, would be ideal. The doors have to open in the direction of the emergency equipment so you can go through the doors rather than stop and pull the doors. The hazard has to be non-corrosive. Okay, the second it is a corrosive hazard, you cannot have any obstruction or doors included in place. And they have to be push bar or panic bar operated, no door handles. Poll question number 5.
All right, getting into poll question number 5. How much of your emergency equipment meets the ANSI ISEA Z358.1 2014 standard? This is an interactive poll question, so I will be sharing the results after I get most of the answers. Again, greatly appreciate your involvement. We do. Alrighty. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to end this poll and share the results. And a majority of you, 62% to be in fact, selected 75% and over. And then the next highest option was at 24% for 50% to 74%. Justin, back to you, and make sure your mic is on.
Thanks, Allie. I am unmuted. All right. The fun part is I'm going to share. We have surveyed thousands of facilities, and I am going to actually share those results with you. What compliance actually looks like based on thousands and thousands of audits. So, a couple best practices first, though. Okay, a couple things that we've learned over the years that are really important for emergency equipment and considerations. Number one, remove your contacts. If you have contacts in, even if you risk cross-contamination, you have to get your contacts out. They will trap contaminants against your eyeball, or worst case scenario, trap those contaminants, and then as you hit the eye wash and put your face in it, it is going to flush that contact and the contaminants to the back of your eyeball, trapping them there. Okay? Get your contacts out. Don't rub your eyes if you can help it. You got to be in your birthday suit. You got to disrobe completely. Okay? It is not time to be shy in front of your coworkers. You have to, the likelihood that the contaminants are going to get trapped in your clothing, run down into your socks and shoes, etc., is highly likely, and you want this off of you as fast as possible. With that in mind, maybe provide privacy curtains. Okay, just like you see on the right, it gives you a curtain, a private place to have your emergency. There's even a little pocket in there with a little robe. So as you hop out of the shower and you're going with the EMTs, you can protect your decency. Do not remove your PPE before entering the equipment. Okay, immediately run to the emergency equipment, get into the shower, activate it, and then start to disrobe. Okay. Now, the reasoning for this is that as you have goggles on, etc., you want the water hitting those and already active when you are removing those. Because if you remove goggles immediately after being exposed to something or sprayed with something, the likelihood that it's going to run into your eyes highly likely. Okay. Be cautious not to contaminate others, right? Yell and scream instructions at your coworkers on how to get to emergency equipment. Ensure you have the correct type of signage, right? I'd hate to be running at a combination shower and eye face wash sign and end up finding out there's an eye wash there instead of that. That happens a lot. I shouldn't even have to say this, but you wouldn't believe the things I've seen. Be cautious of proximity to electrical. Okay, maybe don't put the electrical outlet next to the shower. It'd be your last shower. Locate other first aid equipment nearby and then clean your equipment regularly, please. I like this clip just because you might recognize the Nard dog there from The Office, but his technique is excellent. He's really dug his fingers in. His eyes are wide open. I can't stress to you how incredibly important this is. You have to dig in deep. Get those eyelids back as far as possible and let that water get up, in, and around your eyeball. Also, rotate your eyes, ensuring that you get full coverage. Okay. Quick note, this is actually Z535.1-2017, and it's color coding for hazards in your facilities. Red is danger stop, yellow is caution, orange is warning, which is cut, crush, or injure, green, which is the color of a particular manufacturer's webinar that you might be attending right now, is the color of safety equipment. Okay, make sure you are color coding your emergency equipment, whether it's ours or not. Ours come green as green for safety. Okay, it's really important. Blue is policies, and then purple, gray, and black. You can make those whatever you want in your facility. A couple quick things. We do a complimentary survey. Okay, the offering includes a one full day inspection, an inspection report, an executive summary chart, like you see here on the right. Those are the real stats. 78% performance related issues with emergency equipment, okay, based on thousands of emergency equipment pieces. Okay, it's unfortunate, but there is very frequently something wrong with the actual performance of the unit, which is why testing is so important, and we can help you with that. We also leave you with recommendations. We do a full debriefing and give you access to subject matter experts like yours truly. So if you are interested, please www.hawsco.com/survey, and there's a form there you can fill out, or I might have a poll question related to this topic.
All right, getting into our sixth poll question. After learning all this wonderful information from Justin, would you be interested in a free site survey of your existing emergency equipment for ANSI compliance? We appreciate your participation again, especially Justin. We'd love to see those numbers ramp up. I'll give you all a few more seconds to input your votes, and it looks like we have a majority in there. Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Now, last thing, and then we'll launch into the soft close. If you're not interested in the free 99 option, um, which is the site survey. And if you are in desperate need of help, if you really need people on site that are going to test your emergency equipment on an annual basis, can commission new emergency equipment for you, installation, and organize hookups and things like that for you. We have a service arm here at Haws that can help with that. They can educate, and they can either do weekly activations, monthly activations, annual activations, depending on what your facility's needs are, how frequently you want certified professionals checking them, and things of that sort. These guys are amazing. They're trained by yours truly. And other safety experts, and they are our arms, eyes, and ears out there in the field, and are happy to help. So if you are interested in Haws services information, please um, let us know. They are highly competent, highly skilled, and trained, and can help you with your facilities repairs, needs, and inspections, and a warranty service too. So let us know. This is the last poll question. We'll do our soft close and launch into our Q&A, and then you can feel free to stick around as long as you'd like.
Awesome. So, like Justin said, you can actually answer his question here. Would you be interested in learning more about Haws services and how they can help you achieve ANSI compliance? This is our last poll question of the webinar. Thank you all for your participation. It has been greatly appreciated. We enjoyed having you all interact with us. So thank you. I'm going to go ahead and give you all a few more seconds, and I will go ahead and close this poll. Back to you, Justin.
I didn't even bother putting myself on mute. I'm too scared now. All right. That's a lot of emojis right there. All right. So this is just our contact us page right here. I have been Justin Dunn. I'm the field marketing manager here. I know stuff and I like to help people. So please reach out if you need me, if you need us. Our Haws customer service is the absolute best. They are so skilled. They're so friendly. If you need anything, you can reach them one of two ways, either through the website or call them. We have a live chat function there. So if you're a little phone shy, then you can just chat with them directly online. And then our website is top notch, guys. If you want to stay up to date on emergency equipment, on hydration, on safety topics, webinars like this, go to www.hawsco.com and sign up for the e-newsletter. Trust me, it's really, we don't bug you too much. It comes in just once a month, a quick newsletter so you understand what's happening in the industry and with this type of equipment. and you'll get updates on this type of stuff. And with that, I say thank you very, very much. We really greatly appreciate all of you and for being here, for your attendance. Please go forth and educate, spread the word of safety, and thank you very much for being here. So I'm going to launch into the questions and answers. Please feel free to stick around. This is recorded, and we'll send you the recording. But I want to answer some questions, so I'm going to dig into that right now. Here we go. So first, I had Nicholas submit a question, and it was, are there applicable standards or regulations for portable eyewash stations? I have heard that they do not meet the standard because they are usually not capable of 15 minutes of flow and or not usually capable of the tepid requirement. So there's a couple things to unpack here. That this is the standard for eyewash stations. If you purchase the Z358.1 standard, so if you go to ANSI, they're going to have you purchase the standard. It's not very expensive, but that's how they make money and they generate the money they need to continue this. So if you purchase it, you'll see a section for eyewashes, a section for showers, a section for portables, a section for each type of, even supplemental bottles. You'll see sections for every single one of those, portables being one of them. Okay, and that portable equipment is driven by the same exact standards. The performance of the eyewash, they have to do a full 15 minutes. Now, I agree, there are some weird ones out there that do very little. You're going to get maybe 8 minutes out of it. These are not ANSI Z358.1 third party certified, usually like CSA certified or whatever. In a pinch, they'll do. But you want something that is 15-minute capable, and that's the majority of portable equipment, unless they are poorly maintained. They didn't fill them correctly, didn't pressurize them correctly, or whatever that happens to be. That can be also the issue. But the majority of equipment is 15-minute capable. And meeting tepid requirements is can be quite difficult with these. That's why we offer heat traced units. From a portable perspective, we provide enclosures, portable build-in-place enclosures to keep them out of the sun, and things like that. So there's lots of options out there in how to accomplish portable compliance, but this is the standard for it. And then Stacy asks, are weekly tests also required for portable eyewash stations? And they are. But remember that it is just a visual inspection of the emergency equipment. That's all. There's no need to actually activate it except for your annual inspection. Okay. On an annual basis, you are required to run that portable for the full 15 minutes. And I just pop it, let it run out to the ground, refill it, and you're good to go. I will warn you, though, there are types of emergency equipment out there that use a bladder system. And once it is popped, there's no stopping it. It's like Pringles. Once you pop it, you can't stop it. Okay. And that bladder will run out, which if you're hitting your annual requirements, you're following the rules, and you're trying to do this, you're going to have to purchase another system, and that's not ideal. So I highly suggest refillable portable units and using a preservative. We have a stick preservative, for instance. It lasts for 3 years, and you can just dump it right back in the tank. You don't have to buy another one every year. So that's a great option, but it is a weekly test, but it's just visual. Annual, activated. Daniel asked, what are the minimum temperature requirements for eye wash and shower washes? And that was 60 degrees Fahrenheit to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, 60, that was determined based on dumping a bunch of really tough dudes in the water. They took Navy SEALs in a really old test. This is true, and they made them tread water for however long it took, and based their symptoms and hyperthermia based on how long they lasted, body mass, and things of that sort, which is totally true. So at 60 degrees Fahrenheit, you have about an hour-ish, depending on your build, before you're hyperthermic. And for every 10 degrees, you lose a monstrous amount of time underneath that before you are hypothermic. So you have to be careful. That's why 60 degrees was determined, and then 100 degrees was based on when your eyes start to actually take damage from the water. Uh, that starts at 100 degrees. Leo asked Joint Commission. That's Joint Commission, usually for hospitals, labs, and things like that. Uh, so not everybody might be familiar with Joint Commission status, but Joint Commission, very important organization. So Joint Commission International requires us that for every chemical that is an irritant, and can cause eye damage, as per SDS, must have eye wash station at the unit. Can you comment on this? Heck yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, you got to look at the safety data sheet. The SDS under section 4 for first aid will tell you exactly what you need and how long you need to flush your eyes or skin. Okay, you go to section 4 and it will tell you rinse eyes for 15 minutes, rinse skin for 15 minutes. That's a combination unit, right? That's an eye, face wash, and shower. If it just says to rinse your eyes, that's an eye, face wash. Okay, it'll tell you the amount of time. It'll tell you what you need based on what it is that you need to flush. And it usually says to use soap, which is really important. Try to provide soap at these showers because that is an important factor for the rinsing process. Okay. But check the SDS sheet for every chemical that, or especially irritants. You'll usually find full body decontamination being the requirement. Chanel, our previous management had retagged all of our safety showers and drench hoses as not needing any documentation of monthly checks. There is concern as new management, myself, congratulations, that this is not adequate nor correct. Can you advise on this? Thanks. Yeah, that is not correct. Maybe they just had a misconception about the requirements. A lot of people, so the arguments I typically get are this isn't an OSHA standard. And if you know OSHA and you know how they operate, they very frequently do not fully incorporate standards into their own. Okay, or they'll eventually make their own. The Z358.1 standard is referenced as their source for compliance with their own 1910.151C. So they say if you want to comply with us, you have to look at this. And that's Z358.1, and that means weekly tests, which can be, I mean, overwhelming. I get it, but it's really important and that we clear that water out and we make sure they're working on a weekly basis. So not correct. They definitely want to document the testing, whether it's physical or digital. It doesn't matter which, but they'll want to keep 3 years of records as best they can. Because if an inspector shows up, one of the first things they're going to ask for is those inspection tags. They want to see that you are actively performing the tests, you're doing your due diligence, and that you are, looking for and participating. So keep those records and do weekly tests, not monthly tests. Armando, is there a height of water coming from the eye wash area? I'll be honest with you. I threw that question in there and I think I just glanced on it and it made sense in my head and now I'm reading it. I'm not sure what you're referencing, but I think what you're asking is if there's like a required height of the water, etc. Just remember that the actual flow pattern cannot exceed 53 inches from the ground and that the eye wash gauge has to align with the eye wash spray pattern between 0 and 8 inches above the heads of the device. If you're following both of those rules, you're going to be square. You're going to be good to go. Okay. Injurious water is a huge deterrent from using the emergency equipment. Okay. There's no way you can keep your eyes in there. So watch out. But there's no like bare minimum. It's not measured from the head in a way that's just like drinking fountains are, like you need a certain spout height or whatever. As long as the flow pattern is between 33 and 53 and it's hitting gauge guidelines between 0 and 8, you're solid. Michael, if testing reveals that water flow from each eyepiece is uneven or one operates effectively and the other has low pressure, is the employer required to repair or replace the eye wash unit per OSHA regulations? Please elaborate. For example, the safety cap impedes water flow. That happens a lot. Impedes the water flow. The safety caps are missing. Yeah, they're required to repair or replace that. Absolutely. If inspected, right, or if audited, they would be in trouble. The equipment has to function correctly. The dust caps, in particular, they cannot. You cannot have a separate action to remove the dust covers. They have to be self-removing, and they have to be present. They're very frequently missing because they don't get replaced or they're sun worn, they get broken, and nobody replaces them. And that leads to buildup and other issues for the emergency equipment, but they have to replace those or repair them. Luckily, companies like us make it very easy. We have retrofit kits and things like that to help to correct any brand of emergency equipment, not just Haws equipment. Leo, is it mandatory to put an eye wash station wherever the chemical is indicated as highly irritant? Yes, definitely. Check the SDS sheet for that chemical or substance, whatever it happens to be, and under section 4, and I guarantee it'll say rinse your eyes for 15 minutes and rinse your skin for 15 minutes. Use soap. That'll for sure be in there. Okay. You'll want an eye face wash. An eye wash is fine. It is very is quickly and has for a long time become a outdated way to rinse your eyes, because the likelihood that something's going to spray or also affect the soft tissues of your face is highly likely. So an eye face wash is ideal. So for that, you an irritant, eye face wash and safety shower. Jerry, I am a member of the BCSP, Board of Certified Safety Professionals, is I think what that means. And are there CEUs available for this? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how they do theirs. I know they have webinars and they have materials for like CEU accreditation. I'll tell you what. I'll look into it. I'll look into whether the BCSP is maybe somewhere we can offer CU credits or something like that. But we offer a general certification. We also have credits that will all be explained in the follow-up materials. So if you want CU credit in the follow-up email, it'll give you instructions on how to claim those. And then maybe I'm sure BCSP will maybe accept that. Daniel, what are the minimum temperature requirements for eye wash and safety shower and shower washes? That's 60 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit again. All right, I think that's as far as we're going to go. I don't want to steal too much of your guys' time. Thank you for sticking around. I greatly appreciate it. There's still a lot of you here, and I greatly appreciate that. I hope this was interesting and useful information. I hope you enjoyed the webinar, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Join us in the future. We'll have more webinars available for you. My next one is regarding the ADA. We'll cover Americans with Disabilities in a couple months here in August. And that's a really, really good webinar. Also, CEU credits available for that, and also applies to both emergency equipment and drinking fountains. So we'll cover all that. Thank you again. Oh, see, I love all the emojis. It's so rad. Have a great week, guys. I greatly appreciate you. Thanks for being here.